What is reading fluency, and what are the best practices to help struggling readers become more fluent? When I explain fluency to my students, I tell them that it's reading like a storyteller. But what does that really mean? Reading fluently means that you're able to read with speed, accuracy, and expression. A student can read smoothly when they have fluency. A student can also use prosody when they're reading fluently. What this means is that a student can read a written text as if it would sound if spoken orally. Fluent readers can read with all of these things, speed, accuracy, expression, prosody, but they're also able to comprehend, to make sense of the text. To be honest, before I started this research on fluency, I didn't know how truly important it was. But, as Young et al. 2015 says, reading fluency is an important reading competency that lays the foundation or allows for close reading and further growth in reading. While comprehension is the overall goal for reading, a lack of fluency has been directly tied to a lack of comprehension. So as kids go along in school, struggling with fluency, they'll continue to struggle with comprehending what they're reading. A majority of students who score poorly on reading tests, or students who are referred for reading interventions, show signs of fluency difficulties. It's one of the more common literacy challenges that students face. So how does reading fluency relate to my student that I chose to work with, Ramona? Well, Ramona struggles with both fluency and accuracy, and these two combined create a comprehension difficulty. She is just slightly below grade level and has been making slow progress all year. After researching, I've seen that fluency interventions can help students improve their accuracy and overall their comprehension. One study I looked at showed an increase in student sight words when they had fluency interventions. Fluency strategies can also increase automaticity, which is recognizing words with little effort and correctly reading them. The differentiation in place that I have in my classroom is a variety of text levels, and I have a workshop model. This lets me work with strategy groups and individuals. Here are some of the strategies that I've tried to use with Ramona to help her make faster progress as a reader. I've used colored passages in text. For this strategy, I take a copied story and I highlight different chunks of it in different colors. This allows her to see the different parts that she should be scooping up all at once, rather than reading word by word. Similar to that, I use chunking phrases. This is kind of the same thing, where I take a copied story, and rather than marking it in color, I just put slashes between the chunks that she should be scooping up together. I also do read aloud, which allows her to hear proper fluency. I also use a list of unknown words with her. If I sit with her for a minute and she reads from her own book, I'll jot down some words that she missed. We'll go back over them and I'll ask her to read them properly aloud. I also do self-correcting coaching as she reads. I'll let her read aloud for a little bit, and then we'll go back through and I'll ask her to reread what didn't sound right at first. This is in hopes to get her to self-correct herself on her own so that I don't have to interrupt her. From my research, I've realized that I need to provide Ramona with more opportunities to read aloud in different formats and to hear proper fluency. The best practices that I'm proposing to use with Ramona are student-directed repeated readings, choral reading, and a strategy called reading together, which is a combination of repeated reading and the neurological impress method. Student-directed repeated readings is a strategy when the teacher first models how to read the passage properly. Then the student will reread multiple times. The teacher will write down challenging words, and these will be reviewed at the end. And then a few comprehension questions will be asked at the end of the repeated readings. Choral reading is a strategy when multiple people read the text together at one time. This can be done with just a teacher and a student reading together, or it's most commonly done with a small group or a whole class reading a text together. They need to keep at the same pace, use the same expression, and use the same intonation. Reading together is a strategy that combines repeated reading and the neurological impress method. NIM is a method when a teacher reads aloud and the student reads aloud just behind the teacher. They're ultimately trying to catch up to the teacher, and they're trying to match the teacher's expression and intonation. Then the student will reread the text aloud, just on their own. They'll continue to do this for about 20 minutes or until the teacher feels proper fluency has been reached. Then, at the end, a quick conversation will happen about the text, just to make sure the student comprehended it. The student-directed repeated reading method applies to fluency because it allows a student to hear a text read properly, and then it gives the student multiple opportunities to practice reading the text fluently. The method is created from a combination of research-based methods. Huang et al. Did a study of this method, and it yielded positive results in word acquisition and fluency. So not only did it help kids with fluency, but it helped them with more sight words as well. Another study took a repeated reading and they compared it against two other practices. And compared to the other two, repeated readings showed the most student growth. Something that's important about this method is that you let the student do the repeated readings with minimal to no interruptions. If a student tends to read word by word, it might be a habit that they've learned after being interrupted by a teacher because they're waiting for approval. This is said in Allington, 2012. When I use this with Ramona or with other students in my class, I can differentiate it based on the text levels. I can also differentiate it based on the types of text. I can use narrative, informational, poetry, or any topic. Core reading is another method that relates to reading fluency difficulties. It can be used with a whole class, or it can be used with a small group. It creates feelings of a safe environment because no student is singled out. They have others to read along with. It's successful in engaging multiple students at once in reading aloud. As Page 2011 said, WCCR can help many students from a variety of settings engage in the monitored reading situations that assist them in becoming successful readers. For Ramona, I was thinking that I could create a small group with other kids who need practice with fluency. She's not the only one in my class who reads word by word and reads slowly. Others need practice with it too. To differentiate this, I can select different passages for different purposes. For an example, dialogue. If I wanted students to practice reading dialogue fluently, I could pick a passage that has a lot of dialogue in it. This can also be used with different levels of text and different types of text. As with the last method, I could use narrative, informational, poetry, or any other. The reading together strategy is yet another that helps students with fluency difficulties. It combines the neurological impress method, or NIM, and repeated readings. NIM is a method that can provide a model of prosodic oral reading for students who struggle to read with appropriate phrasing that can contribute to overall comprehension, as stated by Young et al. 2015. However, these studies have had some mixed results. Repeated reading, however, has consistently had positive results. These two combined can provide less fluent students with a model and supported practice. The study by Young et al. On the reading together method had significant positive results. There was a positive effect on students' word accuracy and automaticity and their prosodic reading. So yet again, it didn't just help with fluency, but it helped with their accuracy as well. In my class, I could use this during workshop time as an intervention with Ramona individually. I can differentiate it for other students by using a different text level or a different type of text. To keep track of all of these interventions and to see if they're actually having a positive effect on Ramona's growth, I'll have to use assessments. What I'll do is I'll keep track of the different texts we read. I will keep observational notes on her expression and her intonation. I will also keep track of words misread during the first reading and words misread during the last reading. This will show me what words she's learning. I also thought that I could use voice recording, so this way I could hear the student difference throughout the interventions. I will also continue to use my Teachers College Reading and Writing Project running records. I can use them before and after a certain time of intervention, and I can do the running records on the same text to see exactly what areas she's improved on. Through all of my research, I've come to the conclusion that fluency is improved from opportunities to read aloud. Students also need to read aloud in different ways and different texts. Students also need to hear proper fluency, and then they need to be given the time to practice that proper fluency that they just heard. Fluency improves as automaticity improves. I've also come to the conclusion that fluency and automaticity ultimately lead to better comprehension. Everything's connected with literacy difficulties. Literacy difficulties can stem from one component, such as fluency, and that affects all of the other components, which leads to just overall having reading be challenging to you.